Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a very simple amendment that is designed to address the biggest concern facing American families and small businesses today, which is inflation. This amendment delays the implementation of this bill until the HUD Secretary certifies that wage growth has surpassed inflation. Every month we get more numbers on inflation, and every month the results seem to be the same. The dollars in my constituents' pockets do not go as far as they used to. One silver lining for workers during the pandemic is that wage growth has gone up significantly as well. The nominal wage growth numbers from St. Louis Fed in May showed a 6.1% year-over-year increase. That's the good news. The bad news is that the May Consumer Price Index report released this month showed prices increased 8.6% year-over-year. That is much higher than the prognostication of many economists and is devastating for every American family. What these numbers tell us is that while wages have gone up, the value of paychecks is still going down. I urge my colleagues to talk to the people and businesses in your district and get a sense of the impact of inflation. This impact is crushing families and businesses across this country. For example, Executive Wood Products in Sullivan, Missouri is a small business that makes wood podiums and anti-ballistic furniture. Paul Alexander, founder and president, told us that raw material prices have gone up an average of 30%. Furthermore, he said that by the time he quotes a product, sends a quote to the customer, and the customer sends a quote back, the price of raw materials has increased so much that the quote is no longer accurate, and his business has to absorb those losses. Then there's Old Time Produce, a woman-owned, locally fresh food distributor in St. Charles, Missouri that serves the greater St. Louis area and its restaurants, hotels, hospitals, and schools with fresh food and produce. I visited with them earlier this month, and Joan DeLeo, the president of the company, said that inflation has not only impacted the price of goods, but that even equipment leasing contracts are now being linked to the CPI or other inflationary measures. Businesses in these contracts cannot raise prices enough to keep pace with dramatic increases in inflation. And lastly, I will mention Missouri Meerschaum Company, a Washington, Missouri company that makes corncob pipes. They had to increase hourly wages by 20%, but at the same time, the cost of anything wood-related, including corrugated boxes, has gone up 50% minimum, a double hit to the company. There are millions of businesses and Americans who have similar stories, and there are thousands in every district. If you've not been hearing these stories from home, allow me to share some information with you. Every month, the members of the Small Business Committee get an update from the Job Creators Network on a monthly survey that they conduct of small businesses. The latest numbers for May are alarming. Number one concern among small businesses is inflation and higher prices. 73% of small businesses do not believe the Biden administration is doing enough on inflation. 33% of small businesses said they have already raised their prices, while 42% anticipate raising prices in the future. Despite the immense concern from small businesses across the country, the majority here in Congress refused to address the scourge of inflation. Not one of the bills' markup is aimed at lowering inflation. Instead, we're still debating their efforts to raise taxes, increase spending, and add regulations, all of which will only make inflation worse. This amendment will at least ensure that Americans get to a point where the wage they earn can at least buy their families what it used to. As we heard earlier this morning, I guess now it's afternoon, the wages have actually gone down with their buying power by 3.4%. So what we need to do is have HUD stop to make sure that we're not putting people in the position of purchasing a home and then being unable to pay for it due to the lost purchasing power of their salaries. The single largest issue facing the American economy and the pocketbooks of American families is inflation. So it should be the focus of this committee. At least we should try and ease that burden. With that, I urge my colleagues to support this amendment, and I yield back.